Welcome to the Purple Hummingbird Co. podcast, a sanctuary where we invite you to the journey with us through the depths of addiction, the triumphs of recovery, the pains of loss, and the vital importance of prevention. But let us be clear, this is not going to be an easy journey. We confront the stark realities of addiction head on, acknowledging the pain, the turmoil, and the heartache that inflicts upon individuals, families, and communities alike. We recognize that these conversations may be triggering or uncomfortable for some of our listeners, and we urge caution and self-care as you embark on this emotional voyage with us. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please visit purplehummingbird.co.com for resources, or send us a message and we would be happy to connect with you.
So, welcome to the Purple Hummingbird podcast. I have Liam here today, and he's going to tell us his story. So, Liam, how would you tell us about yourself?
First off, thanks for having me.
Of course.
It's definitely something that's getting me out of my comfort zone, and something that's not only I hope is going to help others, but help me. Like I grew up around here. Grew up, born and raised in Pembroke. Came from a very, very normal family. Like we didn't have it all by any means, but there's definitely people worse off than we were. My parents did what they could to help and raise a family.
For sure. And so you're in recovery now?
Yeah.
Yeah. How long have you been in recovery?
I've been actively working at it for 4.5 years.
Good for you.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
There's been some bumps along the way, but it's kind of to be expected. It's part of the process.
Part of the journey, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And like the people I've met along the way and the connections I've made is just everyone's been nothing but supportive of it.
That's good. That's what we need, right?
Yeah, that is, and I think that's what got me through it, got me to here. As of right now, I have 7.5 months clean off hard drugs. I quit smoking weed 2 weeks ago.
Good for you.
Yeah, and I've never felt better. I never thought that it impacted me the way it actually did until I quit. And now 2 weeks in, like my whole life has just changed within this 2 weeks. Pretty much ever since Jay spoke at the event for the grind.
Oh, definitely. That was a very big, like, monumental moment, I believe.
It was, yeah.
I think,
and to see the turnout there was it was absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, I literally walked in. It was just shivers.
Yeah.
Like I could just feel the energy of just support and love around everybody. It was really nice to see that.
Yeah, I seen all the cars outside, and I was like, "There's no way they're all here for this." And sure enough,
and they were. Yeah. That's amazing, and that's what we wanted, right? Especially given the circumstances that we are facing here in the Ottawa Valley and like Canada itself with the opioid crisis.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what would you say would be some of your biggest challenges that you were facing during your addiction? And like how they impacted your life the most?
I've always known I've been some sort of an addict. I started drugs at a very young age, younger than most. I speak to a lot of older guys, and they're like, "Yeah, we didn't start till like well into our 20s or even 30s." And I just look back and I'm like, wow, I started using hard drugs when I was like 13, 14. And the situations I put myself in as a teenager was definitely the biggest impact. I put myself in many dangerous situations. And it was all just based on trying to fit in. Coming into high school, you meet all new different types of people, and it's
a little bit of a culture shock, right? I think
it is, yeah.
Even though you come from such a small like school, given like where we are,
yeah.
And, I think a lot of us, especially in this area, have grown up, and that's kind of when we did start to try things.
For sure, yeah. And like being in elementary school, you're still considered like a young child. You're not exposed to as much as you are when you hit high school. Like I went to Bishop, starts in grade 8. I was 12 in grade 8, and you're going to school with people who are 17, 18, sometimes 19, and there's a lot of things that you don't see in elementary school as a young kid because you're so protected by the school, protected by your parents, and
It's like a whole another world when we get
yeah,
into high school.
it
I
is.
definitely
Yeah,
can agree with that one,
yeah, yeah.
especially going in from like grade 8 and same school as you two as well.
Hmm.
And because we were just a few grades behind each
Yeah,
other, eh?
yeah.
So it's very interesting to see how a lot of us are in a very similar situation where we started kind of, experimenting at such a young age, given
Exactly.
like
Yeah,
what we were shown so
yeah,
quickly, and
yeah.
we didn't realize at the time. And they would teach us these things like the DARE program, all that, but
Hmm.
it just wasn't enough to keep us there
Yeah,
and be like, this is a serious issue.
exactly. Yeah, and like being so young, even at the end of high school, you're still young. You still haven't experienced the world um, the way you do when you come out of high school, and it's even if you come from a place where you never think you could go to addiction or drugs or any kind of vices. It's when it hits you hard because you're
Hmm.
not expecting it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always say that like addiction holds no bounds.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter where you come from, essentially. It can gravitate towards you, doesn't matter where you come from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely impacts people from all walks of life, and it's something that if you don't work at it, if you don't actively try, then it hits hard, and
Hmm.
sometimes there's no stopping it.
Yeah, for sure. So like going through like high school and stuff and all the small things as like we would do as youth, we didn't really think about per se, and
Hmm.
we didn't want to listen to our parents, of
Oh no,
course. And
exactly. Like you're a rebel in high school. Well, some kids are anyway. And and yeah, like I said, you're exposed to things that you don't think you're going to be exposed to, and you don't think can change you, but it does. It really does.
and kind of what are those like biggest challenges like that you face? Like what was kind of like that first time for you?
I think like peer pressure, wanting to fit in, wanting to be a part of something that you've never been a part of. Um, like once you get to high school, you start meeting new people, and you kind of fall away from your elementary school friends, which happened to me. I had a specific group of friends in elementary school. Coming into high school, I met new people, and they had an image that I didn't necessarily want per se, but I seen it and I'm like, oh, I like that.
You
Like
were
the kind of
interested
like
in
a
it.
rebel image.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think the one of the biggest challenges was acceptance. I just wanted to be accepted into something, and it just kind of went from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's like we're trying to find this like new acceptance, right? Through recovery, and we're finding the
Right.
acceptance through
Yeah.
people who are doing good and
Yeah.
supporting us through those journeys, and actually being like, no, you can do this. Like
Hmm.
this is a possible thing. And
Yeah.
like people that are believing in you, that's right on the money. I feel like there is no money in the world that could ever change that. It
Exactly.
is
Yeah.
it's a priceless thing to be able
Hmm.
to have that support of
Yeah.
good people around you that want to help you and make sure that you're going to do well with yourself.
Yeah.
So
And now I do nothing but surround myself with people that are positive, people that are in recovery, people that have gone through it and have learned from it and grew from it. I think that's the most important thing.
definitely.
Yeah.
And so your perspective on life too as well, like, and your relationships, and that's changed obviously since your
Oh
recovery
yeah,
journey,
yeah,
right?
big time. Yeah, yeah. Like I've pretty much ditched all my friends from what I thought were my friends from that era in my life, and coming out of high school, I met my current wife now, and like we kind of partied together, but she was never an addict. Um, And like I said, I've been in recovery for 4.5 years, but it never stuck. Like there was always a speed bump. There was always something that I turned back to, and and by that time it wasn't necessarily the people around me, because I was in recovery. I was surrounding myself with the right people. It was all just frame of mind, and that all came and stemmed from when I was a teenager. And yeah.
Well, thank God for your wife too,
Yeah.
and your two wonderful children
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, they're great. They're like 2 and 7, and I never pictured myself as a father, a husband. As like growing up, I always pictured myself as just like kind of a free bird, and just kind of did what I want when I wanted. Um, but yeah, having kids opened my eyes to the world.
I think it's a big journey too when you have children. It really opens your eyes, the perspective of,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like I've been through all these things, and I don't want my child to ever go through
Exactly.
this.
And like since becoming a father, becoming a husband, like I want to be that protector. And in active addiction, like you can't protect them from anything, just because of your state of mind, because of the things you do, the people you hang out with. So after having kids, it really opened my eyes to that there's something better out there for life, and I want to give my kids everything that I never felt as a kid.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Though. Especially like when you go through those things. I feel like everyone, especially those like that are struggling with these types of issues with addiction, all that, there is that small little thing that it's like, I didn't receive certain thing when I was younger that I needed, but I'm able to change that and now break this generational curse.
Exactly.
Right?
And the past couple of years, that's a big thing I hear, like breaking the generational curse, and that's I want nothing more than that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And like, let's say too, it could have not come from like the parents. Let's say it could have come from like other outside sources too.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And like with myself, even with like my own journey, I definitely wanted to make sure that I was surrounded with like my friends and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
they convinced me to do things too that I'm not very proud of.
Yeah.
And now that I like have grown up a little and I've kind of got myself together, I'm like, oh wow.
Like, you can look back and see where you went wrong, and
Mm-hmm.
how the things you do directly impact who you are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it's also those things that built us up to who we are now too.
Yeah.
And we've
Yeah.
completely did almost like this 360, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And like I look back at my teenage years, and some of the things I did, I just look back and I'm like, how was that me? How was somebody that came from such a good family able to do the things I did? And I've, like I said, I've learned and I grew from it, and I wouldn't be who I am today without that. And I think if I didn't go through that, excuse me, that I wouldn't be able to see the signs of it. I wouldn't be able to pick things out and know what to protect my kids from.
Yeah.
And I really hope that, they're young now. They don't know anything about this, but like I hope someday they not really know my story, but realize where I came from, and I hope they can learn from it and grow from it without having to go through it themselves,
Definitely.
because it's definitely a hard thing to go through.
That open communication too with them, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like on the way here, my daughter's like, well, where are you going? I was like, oh, I'm going to do a podcast. She's like, well, can I listen to it? Like, maybe when you're older. She's like, how old? Like 13?
That's actually a pretty good age. I mean, to start.
Yeah. And like she's 7 now. And like I try and kind of shelter her from it. She knows I go to meetings. Every time I put my coat on, she's like, are you going to a meeting? Well, yeah. She doesn't know what the meetings are, but she knows I go there.
Yeah.
And she knows I go there like every week without failure.
That's good.
And yeah, so she sees it, and
she notices, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we don't think small children notice, but they do.
They notice
They
everything.
notice everything.
They are
exactly,
so
yeah.
smart. Like they know everything. They
Yeah.
notice like when something's moved in a room.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
they're
yeah,
so good at being able to like recognize those kind of things, which
yeah.
is almost very eye-opening too.
Oh yeah, and it's like the smallest things that we as adults wouldn't even notice. Like I get a new scratch on my truck. She's like, "What happened there?" I'm like, I don't know. I really can't tell you that.
Would you say that there's a lot of like misconceptions about like you going through your recovery and stuff too? Like anything that you would probably like to address as well?
I think there's always that stigma around addicts, whether in recovery or out of. The biggest thing, and it's kind of true. Once an addict, always an addict. Yeah, I still consider myself an addict because I am. I still have addictive traits. I still have addictive behaviors. But it's what you do with that, and it's how you work on it. And as long as you keep working on it, things get better, things change, and your frame of mind changes. You notice where you went wrong, how you can fix it, and
yeah, moving yourself out of kind of like that negative energy and putting
Yeah.
yourself into that positive and really working
Yeah.
towards like the recovery, bettering yourself, and
Exactly. Yeah.
surrounding yourself with that community of people
Mhm.
that are actually like, no, you don't need to do this.
Yeah,
you know?
and like the groups I go to are just unreal, and they call it Narcotics Anonymous because like people don't want other people to know that they're there. Just and it's all based on that stigma of, oh, you're an addict, you're a thief, you're gonna do everything you can to hurt me, my family, whatever. And I totally get it because of where we did come from.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wish people could see that it's a lot of hard work, and if you're in recovery, um, and you put that hard work in, that it's just like anything else. It's just like I own my own business. People see I'm a hard worker at that. They love my work. I wish people could see how hard I work at my recovery, and kind of learn from that, and not just consider me, oh, he's an addict.
Yeah, because it's an everyday thing, right?
It is, yeah. And whenever I got into recovery, I was like, okay, I'll go to meetings, I'll get clean, and I kind of thought that would be the end of it. But now it's 4.5 years later, and it's my whole life is recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Like I go to meetings at least twice a week, and I participate in all these things, and it's really not what I thought recovery was. I thought it was just getting clean and sober, but it's something I wake up thinking about and go to bed thinking about, and I think that's when that happens, when the work is really put in.
Yeah.
And like I said, there was speed bumps along the way, and just recently I'm learning like I have to be more honest. I have to right wrongs and fully grow from that. I never really considered my recovery full. Like I recovery doesn't just mean going to NA and doing the 12 steps. I've never done the 12 steps. I want to. I was just never ready for it. And now I think I'm ready for it.
It's good though.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, goosebumps.
Yeah.
And like your support systems like that you have in place, and like how has this contributed itself to your recovery?
Like I said earlier, like I don't think I could have done it without my family being supportive, my wife being supportive, and my NA group being who they are, allowing me to come in with no shame. Like, because shame is the biggest part of it. If you're holding on to that shame, then you're never going to fully recover.
Yeah.
And when people let you come in and be yourself and actively try, it makes things so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were to walk into a room of judgmental people, you'd never want recovery.
Well, that's exactly it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, even with like starting this podcast
Yeah.
and the Purple Hummingbird, like in honor of my sister, I really wanted to destigmatize this
Mhm.
because, you know, I knew who my sister was. And like I knew who she was as a sober person
Yeah.
from, you know, the time we were young kids
Yeah.
and into her addiction. And even when she was at one point, she was sober and stuff. And then when she had lost her partner due to an overdose,
Yeah.
my niece's father, that's when it kind of went downhill again, right? And the hardest part, I think, is definitely when you have all these people around you judging that necessarily don't understand until it happens to them. Makes it really hard.
And that's the biggest thing. People who don't, you don't even have to necessarily be an addict. People who have never been exposed to an addict, that's where the stigma begins, and it stays there too, because people who have dealt with addicts, who family members that are addicts, they understand because they've seen them sober, grow up as kids, young adults, and then unfortunately become an addict. And they see the difference. It's not like you've been that same way your whole life.
I always say that like the light stops shining in your eyes essentially when you become an addict. Like, and you can see that light kind of dim. The light's still there, but you still have to go through the like getting into the recovery and, you know, finding those support systems, getting that work, and then the light starts to come back on.
Exactly.
And it starts to shine bright. Especially when you start to feel better and your brain chemistry too as well, right? Like it's going to start like rewiring itself, like the serotonin receptors in your brain, all this. It's all a lot of science too as well, but also like it's the energy that we give to other people that are trying to get sober, right? And a lot of, I find too as well, even in this like town, there's still that huge stigma, right? A lot of people kind of look down on us, or like people who are in recovery, and it's like, no, you should be looking up to these people because they have done the hardest things in their life to go through this.
It's a lot of hard work, and like a lot of people can't say they put in that hard work to become who they want to be. They just kind of grow up who they want to be. And to become an addict and kind of lose everything and lose who you are, but then to put that hard work and then find yourself again, it's one of the greatest feelings, not only for me, but I'm sure for my family as well.
Definitely, for sure.
Just to watch me put in that hard work and just keep striving to be a better person.
And your kids get to have their dad.
Exactly,
and your wife gets to have her husband, and you know, that's amazing. I'm so happy that you have like a good support system around you.
And my support system is wicked. You know, like my wife kind of had to push me into it. Deep down, I wanted it, but my addiction was just so strong that I didn't want to put in that work. I just wanted to keep getting high, and without her, excuse me.
No worries.
Like she's almost set everything up for me. You know, like from rehab to like, hey, I found this NA group, and yeah, like she's
amazing.
Yeah, and for her to have the belief in me that, hey, he can recover. That's one of the biggest things, is just having people that really believe in you.
Yeah, it's like priceless. In my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
like to be able to be like, no, like he's recovering and he's doing well for himself.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Like you can go out and tell anyone your story, but if they're not rooting for you, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we're all rooting for you.
Yeah.
Here,
thank you.
How do you stay motivated and focused on your recovery goals during some challenging times that you may have? Because you did say, right, that, you know, there's going to be hiccups along this journey.
Yeah.
So like, what are some of the things that you do to help you stay motivated and focused?
My biggest thing is just look at my kids. So look into my kids' eyes and know they need a dad, because a lot of people grow up without dads, and it directly impacts their life. Not only that, but just like I see happy people. I see people flourish and accomplish their dreams or goals, and I've wanted nothing more than that. You know, going to NA, like I've been collecting NA tags, but like just recently I realized I don't want these tags. I want full recovery, honest recovery. I just want to be someone that I can say that's me. And just looking to the future is probably one of my biggest motivations.
Yeah, definitely. Writing those goals and putting
Yeah.
it out into the universe, right? Like that law of attraction. You're going to attract the things that you want to receive, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And like the past 2 weeks since that event at the Grind, I've been trying to manifest that law of attraction. And like I went to a men's retreat this morning in a church. It was my first time ever stepping in a church without my parents. And I was in the parking lot and I was kind of like, oh, like, what am I doing here? And I walked in and I was like, boom, this is where I belong. And it was awesome. It was definitely an experience that I never thought I would have. And it opened my eyes to some things. And it basically just told me to keep doing what you're doing, because like within the past couple of weeks, I've been changing how I've lived my recovery. And that's what I truly wanted. I didn't want to just be in recovery. I wanted to have recovery, because I can tell everybody I'm in recovery, but unless I'm actually doing the work, then it's, again, means nothing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Any resources, organizations that are particularly helpful in your recovery journey? I know you were talking about NA. Is there any other ones that would potentially be like that?
I've had a drug counselor for the past little while. Well, last year I spoke to her like every week, like it was on a schedule, like regularly. Through the winter, it kind of dwindled off. But I messaged her a couple days ago and she got back in contact with me, and like just being able to speak to someone that's a professional about it, and not like, I love speaking to other addicts at my group, but to have somebody listen and maybe not necessarily have been through it, but they know all these other different stories, and just to see the reaction about how close addicts' stories really are. And like, so they have experience with pretty much everything I can tell them.
Yeah, that third party.
Exactly, yeah. And so she's been awesome. Like I went to treatment 4.5 years ago. Completely eye-opening. I had an awesome time there. I ate like I've never ate before. Like I went in under 130 pounds, and my goal was to get to 160 or 165, sorry. And in 3 weeks, I made it to 160. So I gained over 30 pounds.
Holy crap, eh?
Yeah. So
definitely got your hunger back.
Yeah. I put on that weight, and like I said, I had an amazing time there. Met a lot of great guys that I stayed in touch with for a while. And I don't know, like, life happens, people lose phones, numbers. So I've tried to contact them since with no response. But yeah, the people in there, not only the counselors, but the other patients, it was an unbelievable experience.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to go there and be miserable. I'm away from my family, like in a different city, but it was well worth going.
Yeah, definitely something that like you needed, and is a staple into your recovery as well.
For
right?
Sure, yeah. So. Like that was my first real recovery. The day I decided to admit that I had a problem was my first NA meeting, and then 30 days later, I was in rehab, and yeah, that was. I can probably say that if I didn't have a good time there, if I didn't make it through that, I wouldn't be sitting here today sharing my story, because I would probably still be in active addiction. So yeah, that really kicked it off, and like it was nice when I was there. I got to go to other NA groups too, and meet other addicts from another city that didn't know me from a hole in the ground, and hear experiences from a different city, because obviously there's different things going on in different cities, and to hear some of the things people went through in another city, it was eye opening. And yeah, so I would say rehab's probably one of my biggest accomplishments in recovery, even though it was so early on in recovery that yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do it without that.
Definitely. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And hopes and aspirations for your future.
Well, obviously the big one is I really hope that I don't fall back into it. Um, you can't control it. The only thing you can do is work hard at it. But like aside from addiction, like I own my own business, and I really hope that continues to grow, gets me to a place where I want to be, and like I just really hope my family grows up knowing that I love them and support them in anything they do. Like since recovery, I've become such a family man, and which is awesome because like I said, I never pictured myself to have a family, and so gaining that family,
Changes the whole perspective, right?
it does, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think raising my family in the best way I can is probably one of my biggest goals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like the honesty too, right? Like,
Yeah, and we don't have recovery without honesty, and I'm just learning that. Like I said, I've been through a few speed bumps, and I think that's directly correlates to I wasn't fully honest. I wasn't fully in it. I wasn't putting in that hard work.
and now a higher power is really helping you with
Yeah,
that.
and another thing, like I never thought I would have a higher power. That's something I struggled with going to NA because it's all about a higher power, not God per se, but a higher power.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't fully understand what a higher power was, pretty much until a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple days ago, I messaged Jay and I was like, "Look, man, like I think God's speaking to me,"
Yeah.
and I still feel like He really was.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that's the biggest thing even for me too, is like
Mhm.
I can hear that higher power telling me these things,
Yeah.
and I take those into consideration, and I'm like, I know this can be done. And with the manifestation of trying to get these things and attract what I was been looking for and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And trying to with this podcast and with the purple hummingbird and
Mhm.
everything, all of a sudden I met Jason, and then it just took off from there.
Yeah.
I started contacting like you. We all
Yeah.
got into like little group kind of thing, and
Yeah.
now we have like a more of a bigger support system, but we
Mhm.
all have the same goal in mind too, which is
Yeah.
really nice. And like
Mhm.
we just want the wellness, right? We want
Right.
to be able to help those who are trying to help themselves.
Right.
And if you're doing that work, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, and like congratulations to
Yeah.
you. Honestly,
Thank
like
you.
it's gonna be a journey, right?
Yeah.
And we keep going through the journey, and we'll go through it every single day, but we just have to thank that higher power, and they're
Mhm.
leading us in that right direction.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's the energy behind it, recovery, a higher power. It's definitely a contagious thing. Like I never in a million years thought I'd have a higher power. But Jay spread such a good energy that I picked it up, and I'm like, man, like maybe there is something. Like there's got to be something.
And then all of a sudden it hits you just
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
right?
In like the matter of days.
And it's almost like, because Jay and I were talking about this too. It was so funny. He's like, sometimes it's scary.
It is. Yeah.
He's like, I didn't realize, like, I did not expect this to happen. It's a little scary. I was like, oh, it's so good though.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite type
Yeah.
of scary.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah.
This is just coming into my mind, but it's, it's someone's telling me this. Someone's saying like, hey, like this is possible and you can do it.
Yeah.
And like it just gives you more of that like satisfaction in yourself too. Like, no, I can. This is possible. And I know that if someone's rooting for me up there, definitely I know that others are gonna root for me too as well around me.
Yeah, for sure.
So keeping ourselves and together with that small like support of people and surrounding ourselves with those positive things.
Yeah. And like I said, like the energy is contagious. So if you surround yourself with it, like it's the law of attraction, like you're gonna pick up.
Everyone just starts popping out of the woodworks.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to do that work. And like even myself too, like that higher power is putting me to work for sure. Definitely has put me to work. And just reading a lot of the stories that people have sent me, like it can be triggering for me sometimes. And I'm like, whoo, like
you got to sit and take a breath about it.
And what I started doing too with them is I said, you know what, I'm not going to read them until I do the podcast.
Yeah.
because now I have that first time read, but
Mhm.
it's going to be more powerful and more raw too as well.
Yeah.
So it's like showing, like, I want to be able to show those true
Mhm.
emotions for people, right?
Yeah, and like you asked me if I wanted to just write it down, send it to you, or record myself and send it to you. But I think this is probably the best way to kick it off
Oh, for sure.
and spread the word and help other people help themselves. And maybe somebody is listening to this and they think, man, maybe I should get into recovery. And who knows, maybe one day I'll be on a podcast sharing my story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's all like what I hope for is I
Yeah.
want to be able to give people that like opportunity, like, hey, this can be done
Yeah.
and it's possible.
Mhm.
Like, and you know, that's the most priceless thing is being able to help someone and being able to be like, no, your life is actually worth it
Yeah.
and it's possible.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm trying to go with now is like everybody's worth it. There's
Mhm.
nobody on this earth that's not worth it.
Exactly.
Yeah, not only for themselves to put the work in, but for you to put the work in to them.
Yeah, exactly.
So like I want nothing more than to just help people now. Like I started doing some things around the grind and like
awesome.
really trying to make a difference rather than just saying, okay, I'm off drugs.
Yeah.
Because even though I'm off drugs, it doesn't mean everybody else is. And everybody's got struggles.
For sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like, it was so wonderful just to like catch up
Yeah.
and hear a little bit about your story.
Yeah.
And like, I truly do wish you like the best in everything that you do moving
Thank
forward
you. I
into this
appreciate
future.
that. And then likewise, like I
Thank
hope this
you.
really pops off for you. I hope you get everything you desire out of this.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
like I think it's just amazing. There's not a whole lot of this around town, around Pembroke, Petawawa, the Valley. And just to see the things that are set in place, put in motion as of right now, this second for this area, like good things are coming.
Yeah, given in like the last few weeks,
Mhm.
it's just all of a sudden like a flip of
Yeah.
a switch, you know,
Yeah.
like it just became like council members are
Mhm.
cabling things for addiction treatment
Yeah.
centers. And I've been trying to work on that too for a
Mhm.
few years now since Alex passed.
Yeah.
And now that it's happening, like I always said, like I feel like kind of like on the third year of me going through the journey of losing my sister
Mhm.
is when things are really going to happen.
Yeah.
And like she's my third, we're
Yeah.
triplets. The third year we're going into
Yeah.
of losing my sister, so it'll be like next February is the third
Mhm.
anniversary. But I always said like the third year going in is going to
Mhm.
be when it really kicks off.
Yeah. And you
And
know, like everybody always says good things come in three. So, like 3 years in and like
Mhm.
that, yeah, that's it's
yeah,
I guess-
goosebumps.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always like, Alex, stop.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I always like, I talk to her often too. Like, I know she can hear me. I know she's
Mhm.
watching, and she's bringing all these people to me as well.
Yeah.
Like, some of her friends that like attended the funeral and stuff.
Mhm.
They came and they're like, hey, you should really reach out to this person,
Yeah.
Jay. Like, he's starting to do this. And I was like, bet, no problem.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it just really started like the snowball effect, you know, it really
Yeah.
just started becoming bigger and bigger and
Right.
bigger. And like, I'm excited
Yeah.
because that's all I ever wanted to do since losing my sister is like these people, like everyone needs help.
Exactly.
And like, I wouldn't be doing what I'm meant to do in my life, I truly feel, if I wasn't able to make a difference like this.
Yeah.
And like being able to keep my sister's memory alive
Mhm.
in her honor and her name and be like, no, she's still with us.
Yeah.
Like her energy's around us. And I truly believe that like she's really made this happen too
Yeah.
as well. That higher power as well. They're working all together
Yeah.
and everyone's like, no, like we're all gonna just come together
Yeah.
and it's gonna work out.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Like I said, Jay told me to get in contact with you. I was like, Smith. And I looked you up on Facebook. I was like, oh, that's Alex's sister. Like, I'm definitely doing this.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
yeah.
And yeah, like back to the law of attraction. I kind of went through my whole recovery up to now, just trying to stay clean. Not put it like I put in the work for myself. I didn't put it out for other people though. And since I started doing that, like some might say it's coincidence. Some might say, oh, that's just Facebook doing its thing. But now everything I see on Facebook, everything I hear about, everything I talk about is based on all the things that are in motion right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really think that
We're creating a trend. We're
exactly.
making waves,
Yeah.
like everyone's like telling me too. They're like, you know what? I like the purple heart more. Like, and everyone's using purple hearts on social media, and it's so like nice to see like our community being able to come together
Yeah.
and be like, no, enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And
that's what we needed.
especially because everybody looks around and they can see it. Whenever I was a kid, um, like there wasn't really a whole lot of homelessness around, and now here we are, like 20 years later. Like it's everywhere, and
Our
everybody
world has
needs that.
changed.
So the fact that people are starting to open their eyes, people are helping. Like what Jerry's doing with the grind is just amazing.
Yep, fantastic.
We've never had that, and I think that now that that's in place, like things change, and things change quick.
Yeah, and it's happening.
And yeah, like you said, it has been changing very quick in the past couple of weeks. Like I said, that's all I see is recovery, like helping the purple hummingbird. I never heard of it. Jay said something about the purple hummingbird before, and I was like, and now that's all I see.
Yep.
I see it everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
It's insane. Like because I started it literally just like maybe I started making sweaters a month after like Alex passed away.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I was pissed.
Yeah.
I was so mad. I was like, no, I'm done with this. Like, we need to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And then working with like addiction treatment services, client withdrawal management services, pathways, like McKay Manor type things too as well. Like I told them, I was like, look, I want something. I need resources at this event that I'm hosting. And like the event I hosted in February, like on the 3rd of February, another 3.
Yeah. Was that by coincidence?
I made it like for the 3rd, but it was the Saturday.
Yeah.
It was just by like that's
the
3rd is a Saturday. I was like, okay, perfect.
Yeah,
like,
that's awesome. Yeah.
And then like after everything with tickets, sales, merch, and everything, raising $3,333.
No, wow. Like the hair on my back just stood up.
That was Alex's work through and through.
Wow,
and like,
that's amazing.
And just being able to like, I've already helped a few people get to rehab. I paid for the bus tickets.
Yeah.
I paid for a young girl for personal care items and transportation to get to rehab.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's priceless.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
This may be the start of their recovery, but like they're not gonna forget that one monumental moment where someone actually believed in them.
Exactly. Yeah. And then that's all it takes is that one person to believe in you to spark that in your mind and say, oh, people love me.
Yeah.
Like I
Exactly.
I have people out there rooting for me that have my back and that are willing to do the things that I need to help myself, really.
Yeah. It makes a world of a difference. And like, we keep saying it, get rid of that stigma, we need to, and we are.
Yeah.
And it's just insane to do it. And I feel great about it. Like every day I'm like, oh my God, is this actually even happening? Like I have to pinch myself. Like, am I dreaming?
Yeah. Like honestly, like the stigma is like, some people don't even notice it. Like you drive by someone, you're like, oh, that's a crackhead.
Yeah.
Like I'm guilty of it. I'm an addict. Like I'm one of those crackheads. And
but that's a brother, that's a dad.
Exactly.
That's a mom.
Yeah. And just in recovery, I slipped and I said something along those lines of like a crackhead. And then instantly, like I just felt such regret. Like I wasn't on a microphone, I wasn't being recorded. But I just instantly, like I got anxiety because I said something like that.
Yeah.
And knowing that people probably say that about me.
Yeah.
And
it just didn't sit right.
It didn't. And like I was in my truck, I was working, I had a couple of my guys with me, another guy who's in the program. And I looked back at him, I was like, I'm sorry I just said that. Like I feel like a piece of shit for saying that. And just me like coming out with that apology, even though like there was no apology needed, but it just
you needed to do
like
that for you.
Exactly.
Really.
For me.
Because that's not who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know how I would feel if somebody judged me like that.
Yeah.
And and like you said, it didn't sit well with me, and I just had to make that amends that the 12 steps say you have to make, even though it wasn't directly to them.
Yeah.
I still had to say it out loud, say sorry.
Yeah. No, for sure,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
It's a respectable thing.
It is, yeah.
Hey man, respect to you. Like
Yeah,
you're
thank
going
you.
through like the process, you're doing the work, you're bettering yourself, and like I can feel the energy that you have, and it's like you're gonna do great things, and you're gonna keep doing amazing things. You have amazing support around you. Purple Hummingbird here is here for you now too, anytime. But yeah, you've been like, your story is yours, and thank you so much.
Yeah,
like,
no problem. It was my pleasure to be here. Like I said, like it's not only helping others, it's helping me.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter what I say to people in my day to day, but to say this, like, for the whole world to hear and be that vulnerable, it's definitely a heartwarming thing.
It's brave.
Yeah.
It's a very brave thing to do, and like I respect you so much for doing that. And I'm sure many other people are very thankful to hear this story, and will be thankful to hear this story because hey, like this is possible, and like I'm gonna keep saying it. Recovery is possible.
Yeah,
we can do the work, and we can do it. Yes, there's gonna be times. There's gonna be lots of trials and tribulations, as I say.
And that's the thing. Like I'm on my 4th try. Like I said, 7.5 months, and like I'm not looking back at it. Like I want this to keep going, and like the movement you're making, like I want that to grow, and like I want this to be like a worldwide thing now. Like,
thank you,
because it's not just here; it's all over the world.
Yep.
It doesn't matter where you come from. Like, addiction's very real.
Well, welcome to the Purple Hummingbird family.
Thank you.
So this is the end of our segment.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being here.
Again,
I appreciate it.
Me.
And again, like your story is going to be so powerful to many others. And I truly believe that you're also helping to make this difference. And I truly wish you like the absolute best through recovery into your journey.
Yeah.
And I always hope that that you have a family here with Purple Hummingbird, and we're here to support wherever you need, and especially with your family too as well. Anything they need, welcome them to the Purple Hummingbird family.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liam.
Yeah.
A big thank you to those who are listening to our podcast, submitting their stories. We truly appreciate it here at Purple Hummingbird Co. to be able to express a true, honest story from all people. So definitely take a look at that website, check out those resources. But if you also have a story that you want to share with us, we would love to hear about it. So send us a message or visit our website at purplehummingbird.co.com. And we look forward to also having more episodes in the near future with more stories from other friends, family members, and even people that I have just met too as well. So thank you so much for listening to the first episode of this podcast, of many more to come. And I hope you enjoy and stay safe.